Hello again, Doran Markowitz here from D Guitars Miami with another edition of This Week in Cool Guitar Repairs. This week's particular instrument is a very, very cool piece. It's actually very near and dear to my heart for one particular reason. When I first started playing guitar, the very first book I ever had was, I believe, an Alfred book that when you opened the cover, the instructor that wrote the book had 3 pictures of himself holding 3 different guitars, how to properly hold them. One was a nylon string classical, the other was a steel string acoustic, and the third was a 60s Italian-made Galanti electric, very similar to this except with 3 pickups. And I always thought it was the coolest looking guitar I'd ever seen, and if I ever had the chance to hold one in my hands it would be interesting. Well, this one came in a little while back needing new frets and some other work done to it. I want to touch on a few things about this guitar before I even get to what I did to it. This, like I said, this was a very cool guitar made in the 60s by Galanti in Italy. This was during, I guess you could say, Italy's next big renaissance, which was during guitar manufacturing in the 60s. They were producing a lot of cool stuff. EKO, Vox guitars were being made there, like the Bulldogs and so forth. Well, Galanti was no exception. And in fact, Galanti, this guitar has a lot of really cool revolutionary features to it that for the time were way ahead of their time. Such as the truss rod adjustment right here that looks exactly like the type used on the Music Mans of today. Push button switching for the pickup selection. Roller saddles on the adjustable two-pneumatic bridge so that when you're using the tremolo you get less friction. Interesting thing about this, it has what looks like a truss rod cover at the headstock, but when you take the screw out and take it off, there's nothing there. So, I don't know. It's all original. It's even got the original tuners, which work very well with the pearloid buttons, a 3-string string tree, 2 single coil pickups that were originally wired to some high-pass filter that caused the bridge pickup to sound very out of phase with itself, very thin. Same thing with the neck pickup. So one of the things the customer wanted me to do was he wanted me to bypass that, which I did. So I basically bypassed the high-pass filter and wired the pickups directly to the switching. And in doing that, the pickups sound very full, very P90-ish. Okay, so you have the on-off switch here, neck pickup switch, bridge pickup switch, and then the combined switch for both. The pickups have a really, really cool punchy tone to them. And then the bridge pickup. Neck pickup. And then the off switch. The tremolo has a tension adjustment right here for the spring. As you turn it counterclockwise, it tightens up the spring. Anyway, it needed new frets because the frets were, old, thin frets that were very worn. They were also, very typical of the time, the way they were installed. Not really that good. In fact, they were a little bit short towards the ends. So I replaced them with my preferred favorite of tall, skinny frets. They got some nice height to them. The action on this thing is unbelievably low. It's got a vintage 7 1/4 inch radius like an old Strat or Telly, but I mean the strings are barely 1/16 of an inch and no fretting out. I mean, I haven't even played a 50s Telly or Strat that had a 7 1/4 radius that had action this low, where when you bend you wouldn't fret out. This thing is so bend friendly. And I set it up with 11s as the customer wanted. And the intonation is spot on. The action, the fit, the finish, everything about this is just is very cool. It's got these big radio styled knobs. The pots are kind of stiff. You know, it takes some effort to turn them. But the transition is so smooth. You can hear how it's gradual. I mean, guitars today don't have such a gradual taper unless you're using much better quality pots. And, you know, most guitars that are sold today have a standard type of pot. I mean, this guitar was really well made, and as is very common of these old 60s Italian pieces, they love their flathead screws. Even whether it's the neck bolts, the strap button, the mounting screws for the tuners, all the pick guard screws, the pickup mounting screws, everything was flathead. The reason I'm laughing is because instead of being able to go like this, I had to go old school. You know, it was interesting. I enjoyed it. The bank of switches are proprietary, meaning that it's all one long piece. It's not 4 individual switches. They're 4 individual push buttons, but it's one long bank of levers. The contacts are over here. So when you push down on a switch, it pushes a lever towards the contact. In this case, both contacts, and this one shuts them off. It's good and bad in the sense that it's very utilitarian and very solid, but it's bad in the sense that if one of these breaks, well, you pretty much have to replace the entire assembly. It's not like today where you have mini toggles or even sliders or whatever, where one goes, you replace it. So, you know, leave that to the Italians, the way they invented the way they designed this. The jack also, you can replace the jack, but the jack, the construction of it, is not your typical 1/4 inch. The way they make it, it's got like a dual clip to it that when the plug goes in, very solid. I mean, it's very solid. This guitar is just, it was such a joy to play on. It was such a joy to work on. Well, actually it was a mixed joy, because the fingerboard had some waves to it, especially towards the end. It had a lot of rise over here. So it took a lot of planing to get this neck straight, and you know, I thinned out the fingerboard a bit up here, but there was no choice. The end result ended up being a guitar that has such a smooth action to it, such a smooth playability. You know, this is just a really, really fun guitar. It's fast too. You can see why I love what I do for a living. You never know when something like this is going to wander into the shop. Yeah, so I think the customer's going to be pleased, and I know I'm pleased. Anyway, so enough of my yakking. If you feel that you need any kind of service work like this, such as putting in new frets in a guitar like this, reworking the electronics, fixing electronics, of course doing setup, installing any kind of hardware, please don't hesitate to give me a call at 305-896-1811. Until next time, Doran Markowitz from D Guitars Miami. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.